My 7-year-old came home and saw a huge sold sign at the house. My mother told her that she is now homeless and should wait at the gate. She waited for 4 hours in the snow. When I found out, I just said, "Okay." 16 hours later, my parents received a call and started screaming. I didn't know any of that when I turned onto our street. All I knew was that my flight had landed late, my phone was on 2%, and I wanted nothing more than to get home, shower, and crawl into my own bed before my body realized how tired it actually was. I'd been gone for 5 days. Long meetings, polite dinners, the kind of travel where everyone keeps saying great conversation while checking their watch. I slowed as I approached the house, more out of habit than anything else. That's when I saw Ella. She was standing by the gate. Not playing, not pacing. Standing. Still. Like she'd been placed there and forgotten. For half a second, my brain tried to make it normal. Maybe she was waiting for someone. Maybe she'd just stepped outside. Maybe... Then I saw the way her shoulders were hunched, how her arms were locked tight against her sides. I saw the way she didn't move when my car stopped, like she wasn't sure she was allowed to. I got out of the car. "Ella." She turned her head slowly, like it took effort. Her face was pale. Her lips tinged blue in a way that made my stomach drop. Snow clung to the knees of her pants. Her eyelashes were wet, either from melting flakes or crying. It was hard to tell. "Mom?" she said. It wasn't relief. It was a question. I crossed the distance in 3 steps and crouched in front of her, hands already on her arms, checking without thinking. Cold. Too cold. Not just winter cold. Outside too long cold. "Hey," I said, keeping my voice even because she needed even. "Hey, I'm here." She nodded once, like she was confirming data. Then she leaned into me, stiff at first, then all at once. Her body shook, not sobbing, shivering. "How long have you been out here?" I asked. She shrugged. "A while." That answer told me everything. I wrapped my coat around her shoulders, pulled her closer. My eyes flicked past her, to the front yard. That's when I saw it. The sign. Huge. White post. Red letters. Impossible to miss. Sold. It looked festive. Like a celebration, I stared at it for a second too long. My brain didn't want to accept it. It kept trying to reframe it. Maybe it was for the neighbor's house. Maybe someone put it there by mistake. It was very clearly in our yard. "Ella," I said, "can you tell me what happened?" She swallowed. "Dad brought me." That made sense. Brendan had Ella this week. We'd planned it that way because of my trip. He always dropped her off here when his time ended. He never stayed long. Conflict made him itch. "He dropped me off like normal," she said. "He waved and drove away." I nodded, like I was taking notes. "And then?" "I knocked," she said. "I knocked a lot." My jaw tightened. Grandma opened the door a little. Not all the way. "What did she say?" Ella looked down at her boots. "She said the house was sold." I waited. "She said I'm homeless," Ella said quietly, "and that I should wait at the gate." Something hot and sharp went through my chest, then settled into a very calm, very dangerous place. "Did she let you inside at all?" Ella shook her head. "She said I don't live here anymore." "And you waited?" She nodded again. "She said it would be better if I waited." I stood up slowly and took Ella's hand, turning us toward the house. The front door wasn't locked. That detail mattered. I didn't know why yet, but it did. I walked inside. The house smelled wrong. Cardboard, tape, cleaning spray, that strange hollow smell rooms get when they're being emptied. Boxes lined the hallway, some sealed, some half-packed. My name was written on one in thick black marker. Ella's on another. I felt something go very still inside me. Mom came out of the kitchen first. She looked composed, annoyed even, like I'd come home early and thrown off her schedule. Dad hovered behind her, holding a roll of packing tape. My sister Samantha sat at the dining table, scrolling on her phone, legs crossed, humming under her breath like this was a minor inconvenience. "You're back," Mom said. "Yes," I said. "I live here." Her eyes flicked to Ella. "She's inside now. That's good." "You left her outside," I said. She had a coat. I looked at the boxes, the stripped walls, the empty space where Ella's drawings usually hung. "What is going on?" I asked. Dad cleared his throat. "We sold the house." The words didn't land right away. They hovered, waiting for permission. "You did what?" "We sold it," Mom said, slower, patient, like she was explaining something obvious. "You refused to listen. You wouldn't help. So we handled it." Samantha finally looked up. "It's for the family." I let out a breath that sounded almost like a laugh. "You sold my house," I said. "You are not on the deed." Dad straightened. "We had a power of attorney." I stared at him. "For emergencies. For Ella. Not for selling my property." Mom waved a hand. "Details. You didn't need a house this big anyway. You travel. You're divorced. Samantha needs help." Samantha smiled, thin and satisfied. "You could always rent." I looked down at Ella. Her face was buried against my shoulder, fingers twisted into my sweater like she was afraid I might disappear. "You told my child she was homeless," I said. Mom shrugged. "It's not untrue. You made her stand outside in the snow. She needed to understand the situation." Something in me finally snapped into place. I had been shocked, confused. For a moment, even tempted to argue, but this wasn't an argument. It was a declaration, and declarations only go one way. "Okay," I said. Mom blinked. "Excuse me?" "Okay," I repeated. I didn't explain. I didn't ask questions. I didn't tell them what I was about to do. I turned and walked out. Behind me, Mom's voice rose. "Sarah, you can't just—" I closed the door. Outside, the cold hit my face like a slap. I kept a firm hand on Ella's shoulder and walked her to the car, buckling her in with hands that were steady now. Steady in the way you get when the decision has already been made. She looked at me, eyes wide. "Are we really homeless?" "No," I said. "We're not." I started the engine. In the rearview mirror, I saw Mom standing in the doorway, arms crossed, absolutely certain she'd won. 16 hours later, my parents received a call and started screaming. I used to think betrayal announced itself. A raised voice, a slammed door, something cinematic. Turns out, it mostly sounds like normal conversation, just repeated long enough that you stop hearing the warning underneath. After we left the house that night, after Ella finally fell asleep somewhere warm with her coat still on because she didn't trust the heat yet, I kept replaying the same question in my head. How did it get this far? The answer was uncomfortable, which is usually how you know it's the right one. It didn't start with a sold sign. It didn't start with snow. It didn't even start with money. It started with me being reasonable. I'm divorced. That's not a dramatic sentence. It's just a fact. Brendan and I figured out a schedule that mostly works. Ella spends time with him, I travel for work sometimes, and on paper everything looks stable. People love saying things like, "At least you're civil," as if that's a prize you win instead of the bare minimum. My job pays well. Not private jet well, but I don't panic at the grocery store well. It also means I travel. Conferences, meetings, the kind of trips where you pretend hotel coffee is fine because complaining won't fix it. About a year ago, my parents called with that tone. You know the one. Not quite desperate, not quite casual. Carefully balanced guilt. They were having a rough patch. Just for a bit. Just needed a place to land. Just one bed. Just until things stabilized. I said yes. I told myself it was temporary. I told myself I could handle it. I told myself that family helped family, and that saying no would make me the villain in a story I didn't want to star in. At first it was fine. Awkward, but fine. They stayed in the guest room. They thanked me. They talked about their plans to move out like they were real plans and not bedtime stories. Then weeks turned into months, and the word temporary quietly packed its bags and left. They started rearranging things. Small stuff at first. Moving dishes. Commenting on my grocery choices. Asking why I did things the hard way. Dad started fixing things I hadn't asked him to touch. Mom started saying, "our house," without catching herself. I noticed. I just didn't do anything about it. Ella noticed too, though she didn't have words for it. She lived in the same house, but not quite with them. They weren't cruel. That would have been easier. Cruelty leaves marks you can point to. This was colder. Polite smiles, short patience. Help offered like a favor that would be remembered later. They'd watch her if I asked. They'd pick her up from school if there was an emergency, but it always came with a sigh. A reminder of how busy they were, how much they were doing for me. Ella stopped asking them for things on her own. She stopped running to the door when they came home. She learned at 7 that love sometimes has conditions you don't get to negotiate. At the same time, my sister Samantha became the main event. Samantha getting married was treated like a national holiday. Every conversation circled back to it. The venue, the dress, the house she and her fiancé deserved, the life she was finally starting, and the grandchildren, not the one already sitting at the table quietly coloring, the future ones, the hypothetical ones, the ones that counted. Ella would be there, crayons spread out, while Mom talked about how excited she was to finally be a grandmother. I noticed. I still didn't say anything. Then the money talk started. It always began softly, suggestions dressed as concern. You don't really need a house that big, Sarah. You're gone so much. You could always rent. Your sister is just starting out. Eventually, it got less subtle. Refinance. Take out a loan. Sell and downsize. Help your sister. Help the family. I said no. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Just no. I said I wasn't selling my house. I said I wasn't taking on debt so someone else could play homeowner. I said Samantha was an adult and would figure it out like the rest of us had. That was the moment things shifted. The house didn't feel the same after that. Conversations stopped when I walked into the room. Doors closed more often. Samantha stopped pretending to like me. Mom started using words like selfish. Dad talked about sacrifice. They both talked like my stability was a resource they were entitled to redistribute. And still, I stayed calm. Still, I told myself it would pass. Part of that calm came from trust. Or what I thought was trust. Because yes, there was paperwork. When you're a single parent who travels, you make contingency plans. I had given my parents limited power of attorney. Narrow, specific. The kind meant for emergencies, school forms, medical decisions if I was unreachable. Things like that. Not money, not property, not my house. I knew that. I was very clear about that. I didn't imagine they would see it differently. Now, looking back, I can see the arrogance building. The way they talked about handling things. The way they spoke as if authority came from age, not ink on paper. What I can't see yet, what I couldn't see then, was the exact moment they decided the rules didn't apply to them. All I knew, sitting in a hotel room later that night with Ella asleep and my phone buzzing uselessly in my pocket, was that they had done something they believed they were allowed to do, and they had believed it strongly enough to leave a child outside in the snow. That's the part that keeps replaying, not the sold sign, not the boxes, not even the word homeless. The certainty, the way Mom said it like a fact, not a cruelty, like gravity, like weather, like something Ella should have accepted quietly. That certainty is what scared me, because certainty doesn't apologize. Certainty doesn't back down. Certainty doesn't stop until it hits something harder. I didn't know yet what they had signed. I didn't know what they had shown anyone. I didn't know how far they'd gone or how sloppy they'd been. I just knew one thing with absolute clarity. Whatever they thought they'd done, they thought it was final. And people who think they've already won tend to be very loud right before they realize they haven't. We were already at the hotel when my nervous system stopped pretending this was survivable on vibes alone. It was one of those places that tries to look cozy by putting a lamp in the corner and calling it a personality. Beige walls, beige carpet, a framed picture of something that might have been a flower if you squint hard enough. The kind of room where your thoughts echo because there's nothing else to do. Ella was asleep in the bed by the window. She'd kicked one sock off in the night, like her body still believed it was at home and safe enough to be messy. Her coat was folded at the foot of the bed, too neat. Not laundry neat, emergency neat. I sat in the other bed with my shoes still on because I couldn't shake the feeling that if I took them off, I'd lose momentum. And right now, momentum was the only thing holding me upright. My phone buzzed. I didn't check it. Not because I'm mature, because I'm strategic. If I saw my mother's name on the screen, I would do something that would require a lawyer for a completely different reason. I stared at Ella for a minute. Her eyelashes, the faint pink line across her cheek from the pillow, the way she held her hands curled close to her chest like she was keeping warmth in. Then the question I'd been skirting around all evening finally caught me by the collar. How long was she outside? I knew a while. I knew too long. I didn't know the number, and the number mattered. I slipped into the bathroom and closed the door softly. The mirror showed a woman who looked surprisingly normal for someone who had just learned her parents were capable of telling a 7-year-old she was homeless. I called Brendan. He answered fast, like he'd been waiting for it. "Hey," he said. His voice was cautious, but not defensive. That was new. "Hi," I said. "What time did you drop Ella off today?" A beat. I could hear him thinking, not stalling. "About 2, he said. 2-ish. Why?" I did the math in my head. I got there a little after 6. My throat tightened, but my voice didn't change. "Okay," I said. "So she was outside for 4 hours. What?" His voice jumped. "No, your mom opened the door." "I'm not asking what you saw," I said. "I'm asking what time you dropped her off." He exhaled sharply. "Around 2. I swear." "Okay," I repeated. Silence stretched. Then quieter. "Sarah, I didn't leave her with a stranger. I left her with your mom. She was at the door." "I know," I said. And I did. I wasn't calling to make Brendan the villain. He's a lot of things, avoidant, allergic to conflict, the human version of I don't want to get involved, but he's not psychic. He didn't know my mother would turn a normal handoff into a survival experiment. "I'm not blaming you," I said, because he needed to hear it and because it was true. "I just needed the time." Another exhale. "Okay. You saw Mom open the door," I said. "Did Ella look okay when she got out of your car?" "Yeah," he said immediately. "She was fine, bundled up. She waved at me." I swallowed hard. "Did Mom say anything?" "No," he said. She barely looked at me, which honestly felt like a win. I almost laughed. It came out like air. Same, I said. He hesitated. Is she okay now? She's asleep, I said. She ate. She's warm. Thank God, he said, and for once it didn't sound like a phrase. It sounded like a feeling. Brendan, I said, and I kept it calm. If anyone contacts you about this, my parents, Samantha, do not engage. Just tell me. I won't talk to them, he said. I'm not stepping in that. Smartest thing he's ever said. Okay, I said. Thanks. We hung up. I stood in that bathroom for a moment, palms flat on the sink, letting the number sit heavy in my chest. 4 hours. Then I went back into the room, checked Ella again, and finally took my shoes off like a person trying to pass for human. In the morning, Ella woke up hungry. That mattered. When kids stop being hungry, something's wrong. I want waffles, she announced, like she was making an executive decision on behalf of the whole family. Of course you do, I said. This place charges $8 for bottled water. They can afford waffles. She smiled, small but real. We ate in the hotel breakfast area, surrounded by other people pretending they weren't also in temporary lives. I let her drown her waffles in syrup because I wasn't interested in being the health police today. Today, I was the stability police. Back upstairs, I put cartoons on for her and handed her the remote like it was a sacred object. Stay here, I said. I'm making a couple calls. Are you calling Grandma? She asked. No, I said. I'm calling adults who don't think a gate is childcare. She didn't fully understand, but she nodded like she liked the sound. I stepped into the hallway for the first call. I called the non-emergency line and reported what happened, cleanly, factually, without dramatics. My daughter is 7. She was denied entry to her home. She was told she was homeless. She was left outside in snow for approximately 4 hours. The woman on the phone went quiet, then asked for details in a careful voice. Address, names, times. I gave her Brendan's drop-off time and my arrival time. The number landed with more weight when I said it out loud. She gave me a case number and told me an officer might follow up. Thank you, I said. When I hung up, my hands were still steady. It wasn't catharsis. It was documentation. I went back inside. Ella was on the bed, watching cartoons like her brain had decided it would rather live in an animated universe where problems get solved in 11 minutes. Did you do the call? She asked. Yep, I said. Grown-up paperwork call. She thought about that. Are we still homeless? No, I said. We're just temporarily paying for a room with a flower painting. She looked at the wall. That's not a flower. That's what makes it art, I said. She giggled once, and I held on to that sound like it was a receipt proving we still existed. Then I made the next call. A colleague had sent me a lawyer's name with the kind of message that tells you it's serious. Call him. He moves fast. We did a Zoom consult because speed mattered more than ambiance. He looked like someone who owned multiple suits and had never once smiled by accident. Sarah, he said. Tell me what happened. Short version. I gave him the short version. He didn't gasp, didn't do sympathy face, didn't say, I'm so sorry. He just started sorting facts like they were files. Do you own the house? He asked. Yes, I said. Sole owner. Did you sign anything authorizing a sale? He asked. No. Are your parents on the deed? He asked. No. He nodded once. Then the sale is either not real, not finished, or not lawful. Possibly all three. I told him about the limited power of attorney. He asked, Does it include real estate transactions? No, I said. It was for emergencies and Ella-related stuff, not property. Good, he said. Then we treat anything involving a sale as suspect until proven otherwise. I watched Ella in the background, legs swinging as she ate cereal from a cup like a tiny raccoon. What happens now? I asked. I'm going to identify the transaction, he said. If a sold sign is up, there's a realtor and an escrow or title file. I'll contact them and put them on notice that the owner disputes authorization. That typically triggers an immediate hold. Typically, I repeated. He gave the smallest possible shrug. People get very cautious when the word fraud gets anywhere near their paperwork. Paper has a way of ruining confidence, I said. His mouth twitched. Not quite a smile, but an acknowledgement that I was at least functional. Do not contact your parents about this, he said. Do not threaten. Do not warn. Let them be surprised. Finally, I said. A plan that matches my personality. He told me what he needed from me. Basic proof of identity, ownership info he could pull from public records, and said he'd start immediately. When the call ended, nothing had changed in the room, but something had changed in the air, because now the situation had left the family ecosystem and entered the adult world, where people don't care who your mother is. They care what you can prove. I put my phone down and tried to breathe. I didn't have to wait long. Mid-afternoon, my phone started vibrating. Dad called. Mom called. Samantha called. Over and over. I didn't answer. A voicemail came in from Dad first. His voice sounded strained, too high. Sarah, we just got a call. They said the file is frozen. They're asking questions. This is ridiculous. Frozen. A second voicemail followed, Mom this time, furious in that clipped way she uses when she's trying to sound in control and failing. They're accusing us, she hissed. You need to fix this, immediately. Then a text from Samantha. What did you do? I stared at the screen. I didn't know who had called them yet. I didn't know what exactly had been said, but I knew this. Someone official had just told my parents no, and it had hit them like a car crash. Ella looked over. Mom? Yeah, baby. Are they yelling? I exhaled slowly. They're upset. Why? Because they thought they could do whatever they wanted. Because they thought rules were for other people. Because they thought a 7-year-old was an acceptable casualty. But I didn't say any of that. Because they don't like being told stop, I said instead. Ella nodded once, like that made perfect sense. That night, she fell asleep without her coat folded like a shield at the foot of the bed. I watched her for a minute in the dim hotel light, then turned my phone off completely. I didn't need to hear them scream. I already knew what it meant. They had started the day certain, and they were ending it afraid. I met the lawyer 3 days later, not because I wanted to wait, because this is how long it took for paperwork to catch up with audacity. His office was quiet and aggressively normal. No leather chairs, no dramatic city view. Just a desk, a printer humming in the background, and a man who looked like he'd seen this exact situation enough times to be tired of it. He didn't ask how I was. Good lawyers don't. He opened a folder and said, "Here's what happened." Thank you. A sentence with an object. Your parents listed the house with a realtor, he said. An offer came in. They accepted it. That's when the sold sign went up. So it wasn't actually sold, I said. No, he said. It was under contract. That's not ownership transfer. That happens at closing. Good. Words with definitions. We're already doing better. When I contacted the title company handling the transaction, he continued, I told them 2 things. First, that you are the sole owner of the property, and second, that you deny authorizing any sale. And that's when they called my parents, I said. Yes, he said. Because from their perspective, something was very wrong. He flipped the folder toward me. Inside were copies of emails, clean and boring and devastating. Title ran ownership, he said. Your name came up. Sole owner. No co-owners. No exceptions. That alone stops a transaction until it's explained. So they asked for the explanation, I said. They did, he said. They asked your parents to prove they had authority to sell a house they don't own. I leaned back. And they couldn't. They tried, he said. That's the problem. He slid another document across the desk. I recognized it instantly. My name, my signature, and a scope I had never agreed to. This, he said, is the power of attorney they submitted. I read it once, then again. Authority to sell real estate. Authority to transfer ownership. That's not what I signed, I said. I know, he said. The original POA you described doesn't include this language. This version does. So they added it. Yes. After the fact. Yes. I stared at the paper, oddly calm. So when escrow called them, they weren't just told we need clarification. They were told, this looks wrong. He nodded. Exactly. The moment you disputed authorization, and they produced a document that expanded their authority beyond what you granted, the transaction triggered a fraud review. And that's why they started screaming. Yes, he said. Because they realized professionals were now looking at what they did. I laughed once, quietly. My parents have never reacted well to supervision. He closed the folder. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a material alteration of a legal document. That's forgery. There it was. Plain. Unceremonious. Final. What happens now? I asked. We separate the issues, he said. You already reported the endangerment of your child. That was correct. This is different. He explained it without theatrics, a separate fraud report prepared and submitted through his office. Notices sent formally. The power of attorney revoked in writing. The transaction terminated. And my parents? I asked. They are no longer treated as decision makers, he said. By anyone. I signed what needed signing. Revocation, confirmation, dates, initials, all the things that look boring until you need them. When I stood to leave, he said, One more thing. Your parents are still in the house. Yes, I said. That's a problem. He nodded. I can formally revoke their permission to stay and issue a notice to vacate. If they don't leave, enforcement follows. Do it, I said. Once that's done, he added, your daughter shouldn't return until the house is clear. She won't, I said. He nodded again. That's the right order. They did not leave voluntarily. Of course they didn't. My mother called first, furious and wounded in equal measure. Dad followed with apologies that didn't include responsibility. Samantha sent messages that suggested she believed volume could reverse reality. I didn't respond. Blocking people is not immature. It's efficient. The notice to vacate expired. Enforcement was scheduled. I didn't bring Ella. She stayed with a friend, safe and distracted, unaware that her grandparents were about to experience consequences for the first time. I parked down the street and watched. The deputy knocked, explained, waited. My mother argued. Dad hovered. Samantha appeared, crying loudly enough to be heard from the sidewalk. None of it mattered. When they were finally escorted out, my mother spotted me and made a beeline like she still believed proximity was power. I hope you're proud, she said. I considered it. I'm relieved, I said. Pride can come later. The deputy closed the door behind them and handed me the keys. It's secured, he said. I nodded. Thank you. I brought Ella home that evening. She stood in the doorway, looking around like the house might argue back. "They're gone?" she asked. "Yes," I said. "They're gone." She took off her shoes and placed them by the door, slowly, carefully, like she was reclaiming something. That night, she slept through without waking once. I stood in the hallway and listened to the house settle. There were still reports in motion, still fallout coming, still people somewhere who thought this had happened to them, but the house was quiet, and my child was safe. If they ever try again, I won't explain. I'll just let the paperwork do what it does best. Say no! 6 months later, the paperwork finished what I started. My parents were charged with forgery and child endangerment. Probation, heavy fines, mandatory classes they still swear were unnecessary. I'm sure the judge appreciated their feedback. We don't speak anymore. No calls, no updates, no family meetings. Silence turned out to be very efficient. Ella is thriving, sleeping through the night, laughing easily, calling our house home without hesitation. As for me, I sleep just fine. So tell me, did I go too far or not far enough? Let me know in the comments and subscribe for more. My 6-year-old niece called at midnight. "Aunt Natalie, please help me." They locked me in. I'm really hungry. I'm scared. Her guardians, my parents, spent the checks on themselves and left her in a dark closet. I didn't scream. I did this. The next day, their lies began to fall apart. The voice on the phone was so thin and shaky, it sounded like a shadow calling, stuck somewhere between a life and a nightmare. Static hissed. The line died. I stared at the screen like I didn't believe what I'd just heard. It was after midnight, that deep kind of quiet where you can hear the clock through the wall. Adam was already asleep after his shift. My son Noah was breathing softly in his room. Rain streaked the windows, long, gloomy lines of water. The vent in the attic moaned like it was warning me, this night won't be normal. I called back. Long rings. No answer. My heart thudded. Fingers trembled. In my mind flashed Lizzie, my 6-year-old niece. Big eyes, soft curls. Her stuffed bear always tucked under her arm. My younger brother Ian's daughter. Ever since he went to get treatment, Lizzie had been living with our parents, Gloria and Walt, 3 hours north. They'd set up kinship guardianship, collected state checks for her care, and told everyone, "She's fine." "We're taking great care of her," I called their landline. Nothing. Gloria's cell rings to nowhere. Walt's out of service. I snapped, grabbed my jacket and keys, leaned into the bedroom door. "Lizzie called," I said to Adam. "She said she's locked in." "She's hungry. I'm going." Adam pushed up on an elbow, sleepy, alert. "Nate, maybe you misheard?" "Call again." "Thunderstorm kid." "No, I know her voice. Stay with Noah." 5 minutes later, I was on the highway, wipers fighting sheets of rain. Blacktop shone like wet glass. In my chest, a metronome. Locked in, hungry, scared. I tried to tell myself my parents wouldn't do this. Yes, there were signs. Lizzie had gotten thin, quiet, small in the way kids can fold inward. She said they rarely let her out to the yard, but Gloria would smile. "She's picky. Doesn't eat. She's delicate." "We've got it," Walt would add. "We know how to raise a kid." "You're busy. Work, family." And I backed off. Work weeks, school emails, bills, great excuses. That night my excuses expired. When the street finally appeared, their house was drowned in dark. Not one light. I jumped out. Rain soaked my jacket in seconds. "Mom! Dad!" I pounded the door. "Open up!" "Where's Lizzie?" Silence. Thunder. Rain beating the awning. I circled the house, tried every window. Locked. My shoe hit a rock in the wet grass. I picked it up. One hard swing into the side door glass. Shatter. Damp wood and old house smell hit my face as I slipped inside. I flicked the switch. Black. Power off. Or someone cut it. The phone flashlight shook in my hand. The beam slid down the living room walls, across the rug, over the old sofa. Everything felt dead. No creaks, no sighs. "Lizzie!" My voice cracked. "It's Auntie. Where are you?" No answer. The kitchen. Empty. Hall. Shadows. I climbed the stairs and heard it. A small sob at the end of the hall. The old closet. Tiny room they used as a storage space. "Lizzie?" I threw my shoulder into the door. The lock held. I kicked. Again. Crack. The latch gave. My flashlight caught a little shape curled on the floor. Lizzie, knees to chest, thin pajama top, bare clamped to her chest. Hollow cheeks. Dark crescents under her eyes. On the floor, crumbs of stale bread and an empty plastic bottle. "Auntie, you came," she whispered. I scooped her up. She was weightless, skin cold, body shaking. "It's okay, baby. It's okay. I'm here," I said. "No one is going to hurt you again." The thought that my own parents had locked their granddaughter in a closet burned through me like a hot nail. I shoved it down. Kid first. I took off my jacket, wrapped her up, carried her out, settled her in the back seat, pulled a blanket from the trunk. "Don't take me back to them, please." She scratched out the words like a cat clawing a door. "No one is taking you anywhere," I said, steady. "We're going to the hospital. After that, everything will be different." I promise. I started the engine, swung onto the road, and dialed 911. I told the dispatcher exactly what happened. They patched me to the nearest ER and said they'd notify CPS. I read the hospital address off the nav screen. Pushed the gas. Lizzie lay in the ER, IV in her arm, pale face, eyes closed, a hand too small inside mine. The doctor, young, calm, badge that read Dr. Patel, didn't sugarcoat it. "Severe malnutrition and dehydration," she said. "But the prognosis is good if we refeed slowly, keep her safe, and get a therapist on board. Labs are running. We've notified CPS. She'll be admitted overnight." I nodded while anger boiled under my ribs. Yesterday, I'd still believed the pies and care stories. Now, I saw the hole under the words. Outrage wasn't enough. Without evidence, I could be called hysterical, and Lizzie could be sent back. I needed proof. When she fell asleep, I drove back. Rain had died. Streets were empty. The house was darker than a shadow. I slipped through the broken side door and went straight to Dad's desk in the living room. Top drawer. Always papers. And there they were, a stack of bank statements. Monthly kinship care deposits followed by quick cash withdrawals and big retail charges. Restaurants. Electronics. Vacation. Not one mention of pediatric meds, vitamins, orthopedics, doctor's visits. I photographed every month. My hands shook now from anger. Gloria's closet. New furs and designer bags. Shelf. Lux brand boxes, glossy logos, dated receipts. I shot everything. Clear angles, labels, dates. But statements and photos weren't enough. I needed witnesses. I shut the door and crossed the fence line to the neighbors, Valerie and Tom Wilkins. Knocked. Curtain flickered. A crack in the door. "Natalie?" "It's late." "What happened?" Valerie looked like she'd been waiting years to tell this. I kept it short. Found Lizzie locked in. Hospital. "I'm gathering information." Valerie let out a long breath. "I've heard and seen things," she said. "Nights where the little one cried. Sometimes knocked and called out, 'I want something to eat.' I brought cookies. Gloria wouldn't let me in. Said don't spoil her. Walt yelled at me once. 'Mind your own business.'" She hesitated. "And sometimes they'd go out to visit and leave her alone." Lights off. Door locked. Would you give a written statement? I asked. For Lizzie. Anything, she said. We drafted a witness declaration together. Address, dates, what she heard, what she tried. Valerie signed. Tom, now awake, added his line. He'd seen Lizzie sitting in their car in the driveway while the adults were in the house, and lights dimmed when people walked by. Next morning, I called the local school. The principal paused. She's on our rolls, he said. But in reality, she wasn't attending. Over 80% absences. During the COVID years, we were lenient. But after that, her mother, your mother, kept saying she was sick and that online was enough. I'll need an official attendance report and contact for her teacher, I said. Of course. And thank you for stepping in, he said quietly. We had concerns, but without access, we couldn't get in. I hung up. CPS called right then. The caseworker asked methodical questions. When, what, who. I answered like I'd studied for it. One thought looped in my head. How did we get to a night where a child whispers, I'm locked in? And I didn't believe it sooner? To answer that, I had to roll the tape back, years back, to where every missed step had a name. I have a younger brother, Ian, only 5 years behind me, but somehow he was always the baby to protect. Our parents treated us differently from the beginning. If I was the reliable one, the workhorse, the kid who figures it out, then Ian was the talent, the hope, the future. He finished college as an engineer, married a quiet, warm girl named Marina. They had Lizzie. I remember the first time I held her, warm curl of a person with big eyes already taking in the world. I thought, okay, this is going to be fine. Life has a way of finding the thin place. One fall evening, Marina and Lizzie were driving back from the store. A drunk driver plowed into them on the highway. Marina died at the scene. Lizzie came away with scrapes and bruises and a miracle. Ian collapsed. I went with him to handle arrangements. He sat white on a bench, mouth trembling, whispering, Why her? Why not me? He tried at first, kept working, got up with Lizzie, promised whatever it takes. Then wine to sleep, then a bottle, then pills, so it won't hurt. His doctor prescribed antidepressants. Ian took them by the handful. I called, drove over, begged, She needs you. You're her only parent. He nodded, promised, and relapsed the next day. When Lizzie was 3, I showed up without warning. The apartment was a storm. Empty bottles, dishes stacked in the sink, the smell of stale air. Lizzie sat on the floor with her bear, whispering, Daddy sleeps all the time. I pulled Ian outside and said it hard. You can't. If you keep this up, I'll take her. He cried. I don't want to live without her. But I feel dead inside. Not long after, Gloria called after midnight. Ian left Lizzie with us and left. He wrote a note. I need treatment. Please care for my daughter. I'll come back when I can handle it. I drove over at once. Lizzie stood on the porch with her bear, scared eyes, trembling mouth. Where's Daddy? I didn't have words. I hugged her. Gloria was sure of herself. We'll set up guardianship. The state helps. There'll be checks. We have time. You're busy. Work, a kid, bills. I believed them. Helped with the paperwork. They got the official status quickly. Monthly kinship payments hit their account. Gloria kept saying, It all goes to food and clothes. At first, everything looked normal. I visited. Lizzie played in the yard. Gloria baked. Walt told stories about how well we're all doing. Noah and Lizzie chased each other until the sky went purple. Then I started to see. Lizzie getting thinner, paler, quieter. Her hand always on her bear, eyes always tracking the door. I asked, She looks not great. Have you taken her to the doctor? She eats fine. Gloria waved me off. She's picky. Soup one day, meat the next. She makes things up. Her stomach's weak, Walt added. We've got it, I said. Let her stay with us a week. Change of scenery. Noah will play with her. They cut me off. No changes. She's used to us. You've got work. You can't handle it. On another visit, I noticed Gloria's new fur coat and Walt's latest phone. A giant TV had appeared in the living room. That day, Lizzie whispered, Aunt Nate, I want to live with you. I didn't confront. I told myself, they're tired. Maybe I'm overreacting work. A kid. Bills. All the steps on the staircase down to self-comfort. Now, looking back, I know I could have saved her sooner. I chose the convenient version of the story. That version collapsed the night a 6-year-old whispered into a phone, I'm locked in. I'm hungry. I'm scared. And I finally woke up. By morning, Lizzie moved from ER to the pediatric unit. Dr. Patel mapped meals. CPS did an initial interview and placed Lizzie under temporary protective custody. I sat by her bed, held her small hand, and thought, anger isn't a plan. Build a system. I drove back to the house again, this time with a lawful access order signed off by a sheriff's deputy who'd been looped in by CPS. No one could say I'd broken in. I gathered statements and checks, photographed the luxury in Gloria's closet, returned to Valerie and Tom. They signed declarations. The school emailed the official attendance report and a request to meet the CPS worker. While I was sorting files, my phone lit up. Where is Lizzie? Gloria. I didn't reply. A minute later, you ruined everything. Silence after that. I stared at the screen and knew there was no road back. Ahead, hospital, paper, CPS, county court. And somewhere in that future, Ian, my brother, post-rehab, who once wrote, I'll come back when I can handle it. Back at Lizzie's bedside, I tucked her blanket around her. The nurse had put a little bracelet with her name and a tiny heart on the tray, so she doesn't feel alone. I whispered into the quiet, it's going to be different now. I Promise Below is the second half of your story in the same YouTube-friendly American voice and pacing as Part 1 to 4. I kept the first-person point of view, all U.S. details, and your plot beats with short lines and clear momentum for narration. The homeroom teacher confirmed everything I was afraid to hear. Lizzie came at the start of the year. Then the absences rolled in like a belt of storm clouds. Gloria called to say she's sick, but never brought a doctor's note. The report showed 90% plus absent. We sent official notices. We called. No one responded. The teacher said, she's a quiet, withdrawn child. We were worried, but they never let us in. I asked for the attendance printout, the letters, and the contact log. An hour later, my inbox pinged. Back at the hospital, I sat by Lizzie's bed and said, listen, baby. I'm going to get everything we need. You're not going back there. She opened her eyes. Promise? I swear. I knew I couldn't do this alone. I needed an attorney. Adam gave me the number of a family law lawyer he knew, Rebecca Stein. I showed up with a stack. Photos of statements, pictures of Gloria's luxury, signed neighbor declarations, school reports, Dr. Patel's note, the first CPS report. Rebecca read in silence. The deeper she went, the tighter her face got. This is classic neglect and abuse of guardianship, she said. Misuse of funds. Leaving a child unattended. Starving her. With this evidence, we can petition the court to transfer guardianship to you as a kinship caregiver. But be ready. There will be a fight. Not for love of the child. For money and pride. Something pulled tight inside my chest. A war with my parents? 6 months ago, I would have said that sentence couldn't exist. But on the other side of the scale was a child's life. At home, Adam waited in the kitchen with a mug of tea. Well, he asked. "We're going to court," I said. "We've got evidence." He wrapped me in his arms. "You're doing the right thing." Lizzie should live with us. In that moment, I felt, maybe for the first time, that we were a family. Not just me and Noah, but this small, skinny girl with the curls spread across her pillow in the next ward. The court date landed 1 month out. Weeks stretched like taffy. By day, work and lawyer. By evening, hospital. Late, emails with CPS, the school, neighbors. Lizzie slowly lit back up. Care, a meal plan, vitamins. Color crept back into her cheeks, but her eyes still grabbed my hand sometimes. "Aunt Nate, what if they come and take me?" "They won't," I said, smoothing her hair. "I promise." When my parents learned I'd filed, the phones flared. Gloria first, voice tuned to the frequency of wounded martyr. "Natalie, what are you doing?" "This is a disgrace to the family. People will think we're monsters. Lizzie was sick. That's why she got thin." I stayed quiet, then said, "She was locked in a closet. With no food." "Is that a sickness to you?" Gloria sputtered. "Don't make things up." "You misunderstood everything." The next day, Walt called, metal voice. "If you don't withdraw the petition, you don't have parents." "You're out." "So be it," I said. "I have a child now. She needs protection." They stopped calling after that, but I knew they'd make war in the courtroom. Rebecca walked in with me. My hands were damp. Heart, a drum. Across the aisle, Gloria and Walt. Sharp suits, fresh lawyer. Gloria with a handkerchief. Walt with a stare like a padlock. The judge, mid-50s, alert eyes. Judge Martinez. Dr. Patel testified first. "This child shows chronic malnutrition," she said. "Long-term deprivation, lack of appropriate medical care. You don't get this in a week or a month. It's systematic." The parent's lawyer tried the picky eater route. Maybe the child refused to eat. Some kids are just particular. Dr. Patel shook her head. "This isn't about tastes. It's deficit. It's in the labs. It's in her body." Then Valerie Wilkins took the stand. She trembled but spoke clean. "I heard the little girl cry at night. I saw the house locked while the grandparents went out. I tried to bring food. They refused me." Gloria rolled her eyes and muttered, "Old gossip." Last came the teacher with attendance records and letters. Over 90% of school days missed. No medical documents. No clear explanations. We sent official notices. No replies. I looked at my parents and waited for even a flicker of remorse. Walt's face stayed stone. Gloria dabbed like she was on stage. When it was my turn, I stood. "Your Honor, I don't want to take away the titles of grandmother and grandfather," I said, "but I have to save this child." Lizzie was hungry. She was locked in. She was denied school and doctors. I'm prepared to take full responsibility. I have a job, a home, a husband, a son. I'm asking you to give her a chance at a normal childhood. Then they spoke. Gloria cried. "We love our granddaughter. She's just sick a lot. That's why she missed school." Walt's tone was hard. "This is Natalie's storytelling." She wants the child for the money. Judge Martinez listened without commentary, but her face told me enough. They hadn't helped themselves. After the recess, she came back and read. Given the evidence, medical findings, and witness statements, the court transfers guardianship of minor Elizabeth Harper to her aunt, Natalie Wells, as a kinship caregiver. Guardians. Gloria Harper and Walt Harper are stripped of all kinship payments and granted limited, supervised contact only, subject to CPS approval, effective immediately. Silence. Gloria cried out, "How could you? She's our granddaughter." Walt stood, voice low. "From this day, you are no daughter of ours." I looked at them and said softly, "And I am a parent to your granddaughter." I walked out. My legs shook. My chest opened. Lizzie was safe. At home, Adam met me with a long hug. Noah shot out of his room. "Mom! Is Lizzie going to live with us now?" "Yes," I said. "She's ours now." That night, I slept for the first time in a long time. Somewhere inside, a cut still hurt. I'd lost my parents. Two parts of my life ran into each other, and one fell down. But there hadn't been a choice. After court, I brought Lizzie home. Outside, bright sun. Inside me, like stepping out of a long tunnel. Adam set the table. Noah dragged a big box of toys from his room. "Lizzie, this is yours too," he said. She smiled like she wanted to believe and didn't know how yet. The first nights were rough. She woke up crying, gripping her bear. "Auntie, what if they come and lock me again?" I sat next to her and stroked her hair. "No one is going to touch you," I said. "We're your family." Adam was an anchor. He made simple soups and fresh cookies, Lizzie's safe food, alternating with apples and warm milk. Color found her cheeks. Her eyes got brighter. I scheduled a child therapist. The first sessions were tough. Silence, shakes, small nods. Then one day she said, "I thought it was my fault. I thought I did everything wrong." The therapist said gently, "It wasn't you. It was the adults who didn't protect you." That was the start of her healing. A month later, Lizzie started school with Noah. On day one, she squeezed my hand so tight my fingers ached. "What if they yell at me there?" "They won't," I told her. "Your teacher is kind. And Noah is right there." True. Ms. Lawson took her under a wing. Noah puffed up and introduced her to the class. "This is my cousin." I've got her back. Little by little, Lizzie unfolded. Markers on paper, bright houses, wild birds, reading out loud, tripping, laughing, joining giggles instead of watching from the wall. Every small step felt like a quiet miracle. At home, we did everything together. Books at night, parks and pancakes on weekends. Sometimes I'd catch myself thinking, 2 kids, not a son and a niece, 2 children Adam and I were raising. One evening, Lizzie hugged me without warning and whispered, "You're like a mom to me." "Can I call you Mama Nat?" My heart jerked. I nodded, scared of my own voice. It stuck. Tia Natalie turned into Mama Nat more and more. Years went by. Lizzie got strong, shoulders back, laugh louder than Noah. But the past knows how to find the door. One spring, my phone lit up with an unknown number. The voice, rough, familiar. "Natalie, it's me, Ian." I froze. My brother. I hadn't heard him in 5 years. "Where are you?" "In town." "Can I see you?" We set a time. At home, I told Adam. He exhaled. God, maybe he's ready. "Who is it?" Lizzie stood in the doorway, eyes wide. "It's your dad," I said. "He wants to see you." An hour later, the bell rang. A man on our porch, tired face, gray at the temples. But his eyes were clear. He stepped inside, saw Lizzie, and dropped to his knees. "Baby, I'm sorry." I was weak. I ran. I spent this time getting sober. I fought. I came back to you. Lizzie stared. 1 second. 2. Then she stepped. And another. And threw her arms around him. "Daddy!" Both of them cried. I stood there with a strange warmth rising in my chest, a mix of old hurt and new joy. We talked a long time. Ian told us about rehab, therapy, a job in another city, a small business, a 12-step group. He was clean. He was steady. He wanted to be a father. "I know Lizzie has been your daughter all this time," he told me. "I won't break what you built. I just want to be near her if she'll let me." We spoke with Lizzie alone. She drew a house with windows, thought a while, and said, I have 2 parents now. Mama Nat and Daddy Ian. I don't want to lose either. We agreed. She had the right to that. Months passed. Lizzie lived with us and saw Ian often. They walked in the park, went to the circus, sketched in the sun. She no longer feared the dark or woke up yelling. One hot evening, we sat out back. Adam flipped steaks on the grill. Noah kicked a ball around. Lizzie drew a house and wrote on the roof, People who love me live here. I stared at that drawing and understood. This is what the fight was for. The court, the loss, the sleepless nights. Because a real family isn't the people collecting checks and performing caring. It's the people who show up every day to protect, feed, hold, and love. I hugged Adam, looked at our kids, and said quietly, We're going to be okay. And for the first time in years, I believed it. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the story, please like, subscribe, and leave a comment with your thoughts. See you in the next video.